Hi, I'm Spencer Hilton with Chaminade Broadcasting Network. Today we have Father Ralph speaking with Mr. Bob Viragh and Mr. Mark Viragh, brothers to Skip Viragh. Father?
Well, we're really glad to have everyone here today. It's a very special day in Chaminade's history. We opened and dedicated this afternoon the Skip Viragh Center for the Arts. And it's really a wonderful way to begin our second century as a school. We will now be able to offer all kinds of opportunities to our young men that we were never able to do before. So I have a couple questions that I would like to ask you guys to reflect on with me, you know. And the first one is, what do you think Skip would say about today and about this facility?
Well, I think what Skip would say, he would really be proud of being able to participate in this building the way he was able to. Skip had a lot of sense of gratitude for things that went well in his life, that, you know, he was successful. He gave back, though. That's what I think is important about Skip. He really knew that with his success, he had a responsibility to further things along for all of us, basically. He had such a tie in to Chaminade that was incredible with Skip. And he had said years before, even before he was ill, that he said, Bob and Mark, you know, let's do something for Chaminade. We need to see what they're doing, and maybe we can help them out some way. And we agreed to that. And unfortunately, Skip was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer shortly thereafter and wasn't able to actually make it here to Chaminade to talk to Father Ralph. And he passed away. My mother, Bob, I, and my sisters came to Father Ralph, told him what our story was with Skip and what his wishes were, to see if there was anything, you know, that we might be able to do to help Father Ralph and Chaminade. Father Ralph explained his dream of educating the whole person, and what really was lacking here was an art center. And he showed us around to the other facilities that were currently being used, and they were quite the same they were 30, 40 years ago. And they were always very good with the band and drama. You know, it was always, even though the facility wasn't here, that was always part of the fabric of the school. And so we were able to take Skip's message that he would support the Art Center. And when Skip did something, he would do it, you know, to the best they possibly could. He wasn't, you know, aren't going to do this second rate or anything. If you're going to do it, you know, give it your all, do it the best you can. So getting back to what you think Skip would feel about this art center as far as the building itself and the completion, all the things that go with it, all the opportunities, he would be very pleased. This is a very nice facility, and, you know, I know he'd be very pleased, and hopefully he is somehow aware of this.
That's good.
Well, I second what Mark just explained, the whole thing, and Skip's connection and really our family's connection to Chaminade was so strong. I think really anything that he could do to advance what's going on here, and understanding that really all of that came from our parents, basically, our mom and dad, and putting us in a position to take advantage of the Chaminade experience. And I think him knowing how much our parents would be pleased, and whether, I mean, Skip was really into the sports, primarily basketball. But I think anything that he could do to advance the whole culture of Chaminade, and this really is a culture issue. When you're talking about this type of facility, I think it really, in a way, is going to somewhat change the culture of Chaminade, in that it's not just, quote, academics, or not just, quote, athletics where they've risen from, that just really completes. I'm sure you feel that way.
Absolutely.
You know, the Chaminade experience,
Absolutely.
and I think that would really please him. That you know, that he would be able to have something to do with that. Really.
Yeah. Well, I see it certainly as a transformational gift. You're exactly right. It's helping us move the whole school to another level, to the next level up. And you know, I mean, it's obviously dedicated to the arts, but it's also touching so many other people already in our Chaminade family and beyond that. It's amazing.
And that's the exciting part. Just as you said, it's a sharing of this facility and everything that surrounds it. And I think that Skip would really like that, because he was such a team-oriented person, you know, and sort of lift everybody up in any way you can, whatever it is. So I think this program's going to be excellent.
I share your belief, and it's my deepest hope that it really is, that it touches so many lives, and that's what it's all about. You know,
right.
I love what you had said before about Skip saying that really it's all about relationships, and I think that's exactly right. That's why family spirit is so important here at Chaminade, because it's all about relationships. You know. What did you guys think for the first time when you drove up and saw Skip's name up there on that rotunda?
Well, that was, I came by, well, when it was first done and drove by, really, I was coming up to bring a few things to one of the girls in the office, and when I hit that turnaround off of Lindbergh and came up and saw that, it was, I mean, what you see is Skip Viragh on that part of it, and
exactly.
it's done so tastefully that you know, that's not over the top, gaudy, or anything like that. But it really got a lump in my throat thinking that you know, he was responsible in so many ways. And you look at the building, I've heard people, you know, drove by and they go, God, that place looks bigger than the main school building and so forth. So it was very inspiring, really, to see his name, and I think it was done in such a tasteful manner. Everything's been done in such a tasteful manner, and that's what Skip would appreciate. None of the over-the-top stuff. That was not his personality, basically, and he wasn't an all-about-me person. So, you know, he's someone that could have gone, well, just maybe not put anything up there, but we wanted to honor him, really.
And I think you have. I think you have in a beautiful way.
I agree with that, Bob. And you chose the right words. That's what struck me, was, you know, the tastefulness of it. It went with the building so well, and it wasn't like, you know, it stood out by itself or anything. It was just part of it. So it's a nice reflection of, you know, how the building is all the way through. It seems to be very tastefully done. And that's nice, what you did for Skip there in the lobby area, to, you know, in a nice way honor him and tell his story, which is inspiring, because as Bob said, Skip in many ways is a regular guy like all of us, and, you know, he had an interesting life, kind of the all-American story, but you know, it wasn't an easy path all the time. So Skip would be proud of this building. It's, you know, he'd be humbled. He really would be humbled.
You mentioned Skip's time here at Chaminade, and have you got any interesting stories about all of that?
Well,
I gather that Skip was a kind of a spirited individual.
Absolutely.
Skip was spirited, and he had his, you know, he had his moments like I explained, but it was one of his friends, Bob Hellwong, came up and talked to me a little bit and said, you know, Skip and I got into mischief more than once, you know, so mischief was not out of character to him, but as far as specific incidents, I can't think of any right off the top of my head, but let's say it was kind of interesting. Back in those days, we actually got a grade for conduct at Chaminade. I wouldn't think that still goes on, and conduct was kind of, you would get demerits for either messing around in class, skipping daily mass, sneaking cigarettes or whatever. And your punishment for not passing conduct was you had to come up here and work on Saturday. And that was one of the good things about Dad moving out where we moved. It was an easy walk for us to come up here and work on Saturdays to work our conduct time off. And I would say that Skip and I spent quite a few Saturdays up here working our time off, so to speak. But
well, that's a tradition that still continues.
Is that
yes,
still
yes, yes. We have a number of young men who each week dedicate themselves to beautifying our campus a little bit. So that tradition,
the tradition goes on?
It goes on, yes.
Well, that's good to hear. But no, Skip was, he was kind of a free-spirited guy. And so he stayed between the lines, but he would occasionally drive off on the sides and kind of do his own thing. But he knew right from wrong and was guided that way. But he had his share of run-ins with, a few of the brothers. Mm-hmm. But we made it through.
That's good. Mark, you got any great stories?
Well, it's thinking of Skip being the oldest brother, and how close we were to Chaminade, how we always hung around up here. He had great relationships with a lot of the brothers from grade school, Brother Ralph Kroll, and we were part of the neighborhood and part of the community of Chaminade just because we were hanging around here all the time. He was a camp counselor. They had the horses here and stuff like that, and you'd have your typical pranks or whatever that would go on that way. We used to sneak into the swimming pool. Skip would do that all the time. There was a pool down where the tennis courts are now. And so, during the summer, we were always trying to figure out a way to get in the pool after hours, so to speak. And so we'd do things like that. And, probably things that Mom and Dad never knew about or whatever that, maybe Skip was involved in. Nothing that, I can think of right off the top. But he was very much into basketball, very competitive. They had a very good basketball team. His junior and senior year, they did very well. So, that was, that was a passionate activity. And he was also involved in other things in the school. It wasn't just basketball. He liked Chaminade. And, he was a free spirit, a fun guy though. He had fun, mm-hmm. and that's part of it also. So, I guess that entrepreneurial side of him, he would strike out on his own on things.
Mm-hmm. So, that creativity and everything,
right.
We have a lot of young men who are like that. They've got that independence and
right.
creative spirit, and
that's right. And it's
he was a risk taker.
Yeah.
So basically he was, and it was like growing up. The old "I dare you to do this" or "I dare you to do that." Skip was one of the ones that, if you dared him, he would do it. So he was a risk taker, and really that's, as Mark explained through his career, there's a lot of people that really wouldn't have the stomach to take the risk that he took, and he really demonstrated that really through his whole life. That he was a risk taker, and if it was like who's going to be the first one to go off the high board as a little kid, he would go, or who's going to climb the fence? Skip was he was a risk taker, and that's really was, I think, a part of his success, to have that ability to, to take a chance and to take a risk.
As an example, later, let's say, I don't know how old Skip was. He was in his 50s. He'd never skied before, snow skied. So he started, he took up a little snow skiing. And we met him, and Barb and I didn't ski a lot either, and we hooked up one time and met together with the sister Catherine and Skip, Barb, and his daughter Amanda, and we went to a place, maybe Breckenridge or something. And Barb and I go with Skip. He's going to lead us on these trails. You know, we're kind of novices. Okay, Skip, we'll follow you. And he picks this trail that has all these moguls and, you know, way beyond our capabilities. And we're kind of looking at it, and of course Skip goes, he goes. So we go, okay, we got to go. We're following them. You know, we don't know exactly what we're doing here, but it was those type of things, and that struck me even then, thinking about it. I go, Skip, you know what? You haven't changed a bit. You know, you're still,
Well, another thing we did on his 60th birthday, knowing that he's a risk taker, we did a surprise party for him, and we met down in Charlotte, North Carolina, and we had one of these Richard Petty driving experiences. NASCARs lined up for him. He didn't know this. So we get down there, and it's kind of like fantasy baseball, or this is like fantasy NASCAR. So here they got Skip, 6'5" of them, trying to crawl through the window of this NASCAR. You know, they don't open the doors. He gets out there, and you're following a pace car. They want somebody to stay in front of you, you know, so you go follow me. So they give him two not laps, but 2 turns at several laps. So he goes out there and Skip, you know, speed and all that, and he's following this guy, and they're roaring along pretty good. Well, he gets back, you know, and what do you think of that? And I'm going, Skip, that guy was so far ahead of you. I said, couldn't you even get closer to him? Were you afraid or what? The second time around,
he was all over.
He got all over this guy and just barreled. All he needed was that little nudge, that little dare. What's the matter with you, Skip? What you doing? He gave us that look. You know, he'd give you that look, and climbed back in, and he just, you know, put the metal to the pedal, to the metal, basically, and just went around. But that was his real competitive spirit, and he had that with everything that he did, really, from basketball, really, in school and everything. You know, it was if he looked at it from a competitive point of view, he did better than if it was just why don't we do this or why don't we do that? You know, he didn't like to do things for maybe just fun. It was, if we're going to play golf, we're going to play golf for money. I want it to hurt you if I win, you know.
Well, he'd bring out the best in you.
Yeah.
You know, and that was it. And I think that's what, you know, people that worked with him, they enjoyed it because he inspired them. You know, you knew that you could trust him. He was going to take you as hard as he could as far as his leadership in that. And he really took responsibility of being the leader also. And, you know, he would clear the way for his associates or employees the best he could for their success. And, you know, something didn't work out and it was beyond what their, you know, capability was or whatever, different circumstances, he'd take that on and say, well, that, you know, all right, that's fine. That was kind of my fault on that. You know, I can't, you tried, you did the best you could, but, you know, I'm not going to put that on your shoulders. But at the same time, he had a way of inspiring you to bring out the best in you. He challenged you, but you knew he was challenging you fairly. That was the thing. He was fair.
Yeah. You know, and as I hear that, I mean, to me, that's what we try to teach the kids, because that's what Estovir is all about, being the very best person you can be, helping the people around you, bringing out the best in them, you know, taking a leadership role. Right. And I think that's what it's all about, you know.
Well, and Chaminade does challenge you growing up. You know, it challenges you to be the best you can be. You know, the academic, this is not, well, you're going to slide through and, you know, get whatever, taking the easy route, you know, and that's important. Those are life skills that really stay with you, that to have that challenge. And I think Chaminade did that for all of us.
Right. Well, I was going to say, as you've talked about it, it sounds to me like Chaminade impacted your whole family.
Oh, it did.
Oh, absolutely.
It was, Mom and Dad were very involved with Chaminade. we'd have the brothers over. Sometimes they would have them over to visit, socialize, and it was an extension of our family almost growing up. It was like a big playground because it was always accessible. You know, the facilities were, and you know, we were here all the time. And you know, on that note that we were just talking about, as far as how Chaminade prepares you in that was actually something I might have mentioned, but I didn't while we were talking about Skip earlier. In my own experience, you know, preparing at Chaminade for 6 classes a day, or whatever it is, every day, and I don't know if that's the way the schedule is now, if they still have, you know, pretty much a full schedule every day of the same classes.
They do, but it's a little different. They have 4 classes one day and then 4 classes the next day, and they're an hour and a half each, so they have 8 classes altogether. They
have 8 classes, but they're alternating days, so it's a little bit, okay, because to me, what struck me after going through the regimen here of being prepared at Chaminade every day for your classes, whether it was the 6 or whatever you had to do that day, and then when you were ready to go to college, right off the bat, it seemed like college was easy. Only because you were, you know, used to preparing for a little bit more intensity. And I noticed that was one thing I did notice for some kids coming from different schools that went to college the first year. They had difficulty with the use of their time because they got caught into all the free time and they didn't have any of the discipline that Chaminade puts in. So you're prepared when you go to college, and you sort of, it's better to be over-prepared, is what I guess I'm getting at. And I found that helped me. You know, I slacked off a little bit as time went on because of the easy part of the schedule where you didn't have a, you know, you have a class 3 days a week or whatever. It wasn't like every day, and you get used to that. But by having a regimen here at Chaminade, I think it makes it easier for Chaminade students to succeed in college.
No, I think that's true, and we still get that feedback on a consistent basis.
Oh, yeah, and that goes with the name Chaminade Prep. But talking about like mom and dad and the family, it did impact them. I mean, I could see they weren't here that long in St. Louis, so they were not native St. Louis, and so their circle of friends at that time, you know, was limited to the people that my dad had worked with. So when the Chaminade experience came, they became very engaged. We were here, they went to all of our sporting activities, but they were very engaged in the Father's Club, the Mother's Club. And their real circle of friends, their closest friends, as it turned out, growing up through all those years, were other parents of students. So it really impacted their life, basically, is that decision that my dad made to go, all right, we're packing up and we're going out there to Spady Road to get these kids close to school. It was a large impact, and you know, the parish was here also. Lady of Pillar really didn't even have a church when we first started. We came to Chaminade's chapel to go to Mass, and until the church was built. So my mom and dad, it had a tremendous impact, and you know, even after we're gone, they're following Chaminade sports and all of that just to. It became a part of their lives too. Like I mentioned, they had somebody here for at least 15 years. Well, it was
actually progressively all the years. I think, you know, not at the same time, but it was like 24 or 25 years if you added each of our years together.
Oh, all of them together. Yeah. But at one
it was over a 15-year period.
Over a 15-year period. So this was important to them. That decision that they made, and it was huge. It was huge.
It was huge, you know, and thinking of that, here's the thing, you know, I still have friends, you know, my high school friends I'm going to visit with here shortly, that some of their best memories are, especially a lot of the boarders, because I was close with a lot of the boarders and would have them over at mom and dad's house to spend the weekends or whatever. That was their way of getting, you know, away from the school for a while. And we knew families that had older brothers and that would be in Bob and Skip's class, and then a younger brother would be coming here, like the Hunters, the Cahills, and a number of different families like that, that we knew siblings, and it was like that community of Chaminade. What's really funny is they love to go to Mom and Dad's house still, because it's almost like walking back into time. They can sit there and they go, this is pretty much the same way as it was. You got the Rathskeller with the pool table in the basement.
And it is the same way as it was.
Pool table in the basement. We used to always go down there. Your mom was always so friendly, and your dad to have us over. And, you know, we were close to the school. So it was easy. Kids would come that way. And there was other kids that lived in the neighborhood also that, you know, we all hang around at each other's houses and that. During football season, the floats were built at the house usually. Right. Different classes, Bob's, Skip's, mine. You know, so that connection has always been there.
I mean, our mother loved it. Mom loved it, having kids come over. And she would they'd drive by. Oh, I went by your, you know, I went by your mom's house on Spady Road. I went by, you know, and with those memories, I said, pull in. She would love to talk to you, and she would, and if you go in, she had that very strong connection. So, made very good friends with some of the priests and so forth. She just, you know, she's still walking up here doing daily mass, you know, until the day she died. Really, she just was. It was just a huge part of her life.
Yeah.
You know.
But we talk about the Chaminade family, and it sounds like for you it really was
a
family.
It was family.
Wonderful thing.
It wasn't just a place to go to school.
Right.
That was.
And again, I think that continues today.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's so important. One last question: what do you think Skip would say to our young students of today? What advice would he give them?
Well, I think to stay grounded, to not get ahead of yourself, and you know, you need to work. Skip was a well-rounded person, so I think that's something that would be important to him, is work hard. The work hard necessarily play hard, but you do really need to have fun. And like Mark has mentioned, his mantra of life is about relationships, and you know, develop those relationships. You know, as you leave, continue them. Don't just drift off and abandon your friends. You know, my friends, like Mark said, my closest friends are probably the people, I would say for sure, that I graduated with. We're doing our 50-year reunion, and a bunch of them are here. You're going to be participating with us, but I think Skip would just tell them, you know, work hard, but enjoy it while you're here, because you can't go back. You're not going to be able. There's not a do-over. So take advantage of everything that the school has to offer, and particularly those relationships.
I agree with that. You know, the lifelong relationships, absolutely. The other thing I think Skip, you know, would be potentially thinking of that way is, you know, we all mature over our lives, and you're making your way, and you may start off with some area that you have an interest in, and you know, you're going to try it out, and you know, whether it's music, art, drama, sports, and you see where you are with that and how much you like it, and you're searching for your passion. And you're going to do that in school also when you go to college. You may not, some people, I think it's rare that people automatically kind of know this is what I'm going to do. It sort of unfolds. And I think that's what happened in Skip's case. The thing of it is, if you have a good background and you know, you're a capable person and you studied in a well-rounded way, I think you'll do well. But don't get pigeonholed like, you know, let's say somebody wouldn't make their grades or something. Let's say they're a C student or something like that. Don't let that define you for the rest of your life. That doesn't mean anything. Just like the A student, it doesn't really mean anything, because later on it depends on what you've accumulated and what you do with it, what you find that you're passionate about, and that'll come. You know, I think that's what happened for Skip. He really was lucky he was so thankful that he found a group of people that he was working with that he loved to go to work every day. That's what he said. He said, I am so thankful that I can do this. He loved it. You know, that's, he wanted everybody to experience that.
Well, you might find it interesting. No, we had our first all-school mass in here last week, and I did talk about gratitude and how that's an important part of everyone's life. And and then I said, look around you. You have something to be grateful for because somebody cared about you and about Chaminade.
It's true.
And so that's, I think, one of the great lessons that we're all taking from this wonderful experience. So thank you so much for your time. Thanks for being here with us, and we wish you all the best. It's been just incredible to bring this project to completion here. So, and thanks for all of your support and help as we've done that.
You're very welcome. And I know you'll make tremendous use of this.
Well, that's what we intend to do. It's a wonderful opportunity.
It is.
So we're going to use it as much as we can.
And it's all about the kids.
That's exactly
I've had a
right.
couple of them come up to me, and I'm going, you know what? This is about you guys. So take advantage of it. And when they thank me, that meant a lot to me.
Yes.
It really did.
And you could certainly host Meet the Press or anything else, Father. You're very good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you guys.
Father.
It was fun. All right, maybe we'll be famous.